Quantum Cognition Healing with Amy Brookman. This next story I'm going to share with you is from a client who is also a practitioner, and she had some concerns about having a session. She wasn't scared, but it was her limiting beliefs and a little bit of fear that prevented her from going and experiencing this message for herself. So I agreed, and I said, I will go to the collective conscious for you, and I will pull forth the information that will help you in your current life. Now, she was afraid to do the sessions, either inviting people into her space or going to the person themselves. Just there was a lot of fear over what may happen to her in these kind of conditions. And I had said, well, the type of people who are reaching out are usually ready to receive the same messages that you're willing to receive and ready to receive. But she still had some hesitation and some fears based in that area. So I went ahead and I went into the collective consciousness, and she had asked about what she had looked like. And as you can see, the photo above, she looked very similar to this. When I see that, I knew that is what I had seen whenever I went to the collective consciousness and asked what was her job there in the Galactic Council. She leads her civilization on a different time, in different space, and she brings back information to help the Galactic Council. And she gathers information there as well and shares information. And then she'll take information back to her civilization. And she does a great deal of things while she's at the Galactic Council. She's a teacher, she shares information, and she helps a great deal in that area. And I was able to see her and watch her walk around and watch her movements. And she was very knowledgeable, very noble, very, I want to say slow, but thought out movements. And what I had seen is similar to this. This is what I drew. And it was more of a mantis-like face. She had a pink robe that was high up over her head. And she also had a tiny crown on, even though she didn't need it, but she wanted that status to be recognized and to be acknowledged. And her lower half of her body was the cosmic web, and I seen it expand out far and wide. And anybody in her path was a part of this cosmic web, which was a part of her. And I thought that symbology was absolutely amazing. So I took that information, and that last piece was drawn out by me, just like a little piece of paper, and I added the color in with my phone. But I cannot unsee her as part of the Galactic Council and a noble person for her civilization, as well as the work that she's doing here on Earth. So she is living multiple lives at one time. Just that is her connection to the Galactic Council. And I was so happy to go up and retrieve that information and see that for her. Now, her skin was monochrome color. She was very thin and again, mantis-ish like in the face, and she had a pink, beautiful robe on. And again, the lower half of her body just flowed out in cosmic energy, and it was just connecting to each individual that she had spoke with and interacted with, as well as her own civilization through her teachings and the information that she allowed to receive, as well as the information that she gave. And this was amazing for both of us, for me to see, and then for her to hear, because she was questioning what was her life's purpose. And after I had shown her my drawing, I was like, I am not the best artist, but I will give it a try of what I had seen. And again, this is why people should go through the process and see for themselves. Then they can see the connection. But I drew it out, and then her daughter does AI art. And her daughter had pulled forth some images, and she was able to better identify with it, I suppose. And she kind of laughed it off, and she said, "Are you sure it wasn't you?" Because the message was loud and clear that she's connected and she's teaching other people. And I said, "No, this one is for you." And what's even more amazing, I feel, is I met this person at a practitioner reunion, a meeting for a week long, and we hung out. Actually, we didn't hang out. On, I think, the fourth day, I seen her kind of standing off to the side, and I was getting ready to head out because I was hot and it was late at night, and I didn't want to be there anymore. So as I head out, I seen her, and I walked over and I said, "Hey, would you like for me to take your picture?" And she was a little bit excited, like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So I went to take her picture, and then I did take her picture. And then she asked me, "Do you think it's too early to go and take a picture with the host of this event?" And I said, "Why not? Let's go ask her." Which then, of course, led a parade of people to also do the same thing. However, she was the first one, and I took her picture, and then, of course, she took my picture with this host of this event. And then everybody else kind of got in line and crowded around and was doing the same thing. But that was our only interaction during that whole event. And as we were leaving, which was again 2 days later because it was a week-long event, as we were leaving, I said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And then I had asked, "Can you send me that photo?" Because she had an Apple phone and I have, the other phone, the Samsung, which I enjoy Samsung products and the simplicity of that. But I didn't receive that photo. And I said, "Well, can you email it to me?" And that was our only interaction. Me taking a photo, 2 photos of her, and then asking her to send me the photo that she took of me on her phone. So then I get home from this trip, and we were in a different country. We were actually in Spain. And then I get home to my home in Europe, and she lived in the States. And I said, "Can you send me that that photo?" And I waited and waited. So about a week or two went by, and then finally I did get an email. I was like, "Phew," because lots of things can happen in transition. And how busy everything was, and there was, I want to say, like 1,000 people there. It was really overwhelming if you were newly stepping into this experience. And I kind of had that feeling about her, but I wasn't sure. So I was just waiting, and just about the time I was about to shrug it off, as that experience had passed, I had noticed an email. So excitedly, I opened the email. Whenever I opened it, it was, sure enough, the photo that she had taken of me and the hostess, which, made my day. Not so much that it was the hostess, because although there is a connection there, I wanted to reach out and connect more with her, because I just felt a strong pulling towards her, like a connection that we needed to talk. We needed to explore more of a friendship together. And that began a very long and beautiful relationship. Our lives had crossed in many, many paths during our journey, not physically and not at the same time in space. We both came from the military background, but her spouse was in the military, whereas I was in the military. So along the same kind of living conditions and the same kind of stressors and the same, geographically located, we had a lot in common, with the exception of I tackled my fears with hurdles, and I keep climbing the mountains. And not only have I feel that I've succeeded in that area, I wanted to bring other people with me. So to see her reserved and shy and standing back and kind of hesitant, that was my guides, guardians, and angels reaching out saying, "You two belong together. You guys got to help each other." Well, as we started talking, and we started talking more and more, we had talked about her husband, who was the military member. And she, as a spouse, there's many times that you don't understand the situation your military spouse has been through. Me, having lived through the situations and also having a military spouse, both of us were dual military, I've been through many of the situations that she was talking about, but she was worried about getting her husband to talk. So she was still, at that time, narrow-mindedly just working on herself and her family, rightfully so. Absolutely, that's the best place to start. And she was working on herself to better herself and her family. And then here I come in charging. I felt like a bull in a china cabinet, a china shop. And I said, okay, well, here's some of the things that he might not be wanting to tell you that he had experienced. I was like, but you gotta, and everybody's going to approach this differently. And I said, you have to give him some grace and allow him to come to terms and tell you whenever he's ready. Because a lot of the things that many soldiers are subjected to is very hard for them to deal with, which is why they hold it inside, because they know if they told other people about their experiences, they would look at them like, what are you talking about? They would be fearful of them, and even their own spouses may not want to be with them because of the horrors that they've seen and been subjected to. So I had begun to talk with her about some of my own personal experiences with deployments, with the separation, with having children while doing all this. And then you add on the job itself and things that you have seen, things that you have done, things that you had to experience. Even though it was a peacekeeping mission, not everybody was peaceful. Just as in everyday life, there's somebody walking around with a grudge or a dispute of some sort, and they're in that lower frequency energy. However, and that's usually the political side of it. I don't want to talk about politics or war. However, it was needed in this friendship. So I was going through my own experiences, and she was allowing me to share that with her. And she had given me good advice, and I had given her good advice on how she can approach her husband and the different situations and things that he might be going through, different groups that he can reach out to. And he eventually started going to these groups and seeking out help because of all the things I was telling her. And not necessarily to say it's okay, but just for him to acknowledge what he had went through. And the feelings that he's feeling is okay. However, you're back in this type of life now, and you have to integrate. You have to figure out a way to balance those feelings, those emotions that's really weighing you down. And I said, a good way to do that is having a session. And she knew that because she loved sessions. Any new practitioner, she would go and let them do a session on her because she liked the information that came, and she liked helping out that new practitioner to get some skill under their belt, which I thought was amazing. Whenever she had did that, I said, just talk to your husband. Start telling him some of the things that you say. I was like, he's going to look at you like you're bonkers because it's different. It's a little unfamiliar for him to hear that. So whenever he tells you what's going on in his mind and things that he's been through, it's going to be unfamiliar to you, but you guys can connect on that. So 2 years later, we are still friends, and I check in on her all the time, just to see how she's doing. And of course, she has her business is thriving, and she has her own clients, and we're both doing about the same modalities, and we're helping people, and we're connecting, and we're still connected, which I absolutely love. So much so is that her husband had a session which helped him to experience that, but from a different point of view, because then he got to see a broader spectrum of how it not only affected him, but how it affected other people with whatever was happening at that time. Because what you think happens isn't always what had happened, but that's your perception of it because of where you were, your understanding at the time. So it's all about healing. And as a veteran, I came at it that way, and I not only helped her and became a friend to her, but I was able to help her husband, which was so valuable to me as well as to her. But whenever I had seen her in that form of the mantis being, I had given her all the details of her at the council and what she did, and when she went back to her planet, what the planet looked like, what her civilization looked like, and how they were all connected. Well, within a night, her husband had a dream, And because she had asked again, are you sure that's not you? And I said, no, that was you. I seen me, but I was looking at you. And that's what you look like. Well, her husband had a dream and confirmed. He's like, no, I seen you as the mantis being. She didn't tell him that I did the session. And she said, what do you mean you seen me as a mantis being? He said, you had a long flowy gown on and I seen you. And she looked at him like, did you listen to my session before I listened to my session? Which I thought was funny. And then they both listened to the session and they looked at each other. He goes, yeah, that's exactly what I seen, how she described it. So I just love when synchronicities combine and act that, it just make that connection, because her husband was not in any way, shape, or form, to her knowledge, wanting to have this experience. He just told her, and then she's like, well, that's strange because my friend just told me she did the session for me and that's what I look like. But they were building the image in their head before I had drawn it out, my lovely artwork there. So please forgive the artwork, because she was beautiful in that setting. Fast forward 2 years later, she finally allowed herself to have a session with me, and we did it online. That was her hesitation. She didn't want to do it online, and she didn't have, the kids were home, and there was things that she was allowing to limit her. Eventually, we had a session, and she did have other questions and other information that she wanted to bring forward, and we got to that, absolutely. But then, towards the end, I had taken her to the place where I had went to find her on the Galactic Council, as well as her planet and the life forms on her planet. And she afterwards, she came out, she said, I cannot unsee that. I can see me as that. And I don't know if you told me. And I said, all I did was tell you to go to the place where you are in the Galactic Council. Go to your home planet in that life form. And you were able to pull all that information. I didn't guide you any other way except for that, with the exception that she heard the recording prior, 2 years prior. So within that time frame, they could have pulled forward any kind of life, any other being, and they could have helped her by giving her that type of information in a different form. But here's the thing. Whenever you're in hypnosis and you're in that higher state, or the deeper state, that higher consciousness, and you're allowing that information to come through, your mind cannot make up anything it hasn't already seen. So even though at first all we had was my little sketch, my little pencil sketch, she was able to see herself in full details, and get that information and that experience and that connection, and just feel that love when held in that connection. So I thought that was an amazing story from quantum cognition healing, as guided by me, Amy Brookman, to that client and practitioner. And from then on, she just jumped in feet first and just has been building her business, and it's done phenomenally. And I am so proud of her for, accepting all of it and just stepping out in blind faith and doing it, because she's an amazing person, and she's built herself a community in her area, and she's brought in more techniques of sound bed and other modalities, and she holds a space for a drum circle. She holds a space for somebody who brings in, I believe she said hollow food. I don't know what that is, but she allowed for more people to reach out and connect that has like minds, so she can teach them and they can teach her, much to the same as what I had did for her and what she has done for me. So be careful. Keep your eye out on who you're connecting with, and the synchronicities of the stories that matched up afterwards. And then when she finally had that session, she was able to see all of it for herself. That was such an amazing synchronicity, and her guides, guardians, and angels showing her that we're all connected. even now, still, just a few days ago, um, let's back up a little bit. In a month ago, my phone had went out and I lost contacts, I lost emails, I lost photos, I lost a great deal of stuff because I allowed somebody who I didn't know. See, I was being nice and I hotspot my phone to theirs and it took my phone down, everything. Even though I had, other security procedures and VPN and on my phone, it took out a bunch of stuff, emails, photos, pictures, conversations that I've been having for years. It wiped it all out. That being said, I got a new phone, and the only email I found from, my previous practitioners, my previous interactions was this person. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. I'm so happy that I still have just that one email with that photo attached to it. All my other photos, all my other sessions, all my other clients, all my other practitioners that I had spoken with before, all gone. Within the past 2 years, they were all gone. I don't know how that had happened, but that happened because, I think you save it to your phone and to your email, but I don't know what happened. It's gone. So I messaged her and I said, hey, I want to check in, see how you're doing. Send her a lengthy email. And she replied back with, oh my gosh, you are so powerful. Today's my birthday. And synchronicities, because I was thinking of her and I wanted to know how she was doing and what was going on. So just whenever you're in sync and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, synchronicities will be everywhere. Just like the husband who had the dream, her hearing that session, me doing the drawing, me approaching her at near the end of this event, and then we keep reaching out via email and or text and communicating. Just that's what it's about, and sharing that information, whatever it looks like for us. I'm just so happy to share that story with you. I've done many sessions for her in the collective consciousness leading up to that point, but that one by far was the most, I feel, beneficial for her advancement. That's why I'm sharing it. And I hope you enjoy that photo. Don't laugh or mock it too hard, because that's just me doing freestyle elementary level drawing. So until next time, have a great day. Lots of love.